Hello, and welcome to Building Your Class Section Syllabus in Simple Syllabus via Canvas. My name is Leslie Buck, and I'm a professor of psychology here at Jefferson College. I'm also the General Education Program Coordinator. Before we get into the agenda for this video, I want to talk just a little bit about what Simple Syllabus, an institutional course guide, and an instructor's syllabus are. So the institutional course guide, or ICG, contains the required minimum elements that are shared by all sections of a course. So every section of a course, for example, has the same catalog description. An instructor's syllabus for a specific section of a class is going to include all of the elements from the ICG, but will also include some unique elements to that particular course, such as the instructor's contact information, the calendar for the class in terms of class meetings and assignment due dates, things like that. The syllabi for your individual classes are posted in Canvas. We are now using a tool called Simple Syllabus to post those. So in this video, we're going to cover how to access that via Canvas, and then how to make all of your required and optional edits so that you can submit and publish that syllabus for your students enrolled in your class. All instructors are required to use the Canvas Simple Syllabus link for their section syllabi beginning in spring of 2025. So this video is divided up into two components. You can access whatever component you need. After I record the video, I'm going to come back into this slide and I'm going to add some minute markers so you can quickly jump to whatever part of the video you might need. So the first part of the video is going to be focused on the 3-step guide to Simple Syllabus with a couple of bonus features related to editing your instructor information and how to request additional assistance. The second part of the video is going to get into some of the nuts and bolts about how to actually edit or add information into the rich content editor text boxes in Simple Syllabus. In that part of the video, we're going to cover some details about copying text or list of text from some other source document, copying or just creating tables in the text box, how to post images, and how to post links. I'll be showing you some examples of how I do this in my own classes. Before we get into part 1, I want to review 3 of the resources I'll be highlighting during this video. The first is the Simple Syllabus Guide Brief, and this is where you find that 3-step guide that I'm going to be going over in the first part of the video, as well as the information in the second part of the video. So a little tip about this guide is I recommend you expand or show the document outline. This can help you quickly jump to whichever section you need to jump to. So if you want to just jump down to look at how to copy tables, you can get there. The best way to view this document is in what is called pageless view. So you can click on Format, and you can switch back and forth between Pages format, which shows you the page breaks there if you were to print this document, or Pageless format. The thing I like about the Pageless format is it allows you to collapse the headings down, which can help you sort of see the big picture, and then you can just expand as needed. There will be a link to this particular document in the description of this video in YouTube. This document and the link that takes you here will be updated as things change with Canvas and Simple Syllabus over time. So you should always see the most recent update date on this document. There's also a much shorter 5-minute Simple Syllabus video created by our Jefferson College Help Desk that if you just want to try that one out before you get into this more detailed video, there's a link to that here and in the Simple Syllabus brief guide. The other resource we're going to use during this video is the Adjunct Syllabus Checklist. This checklist was substantially updated in the Adjunct Faculty Handbook for the 2024-2025 academic year. So you'll need to go to the most updated version of that handbook to make sure you're using this checklist. So part of what we're going to do in this video is we're going to walk through this checklist as we look at using Simple Syllabus. So if you need to pause the video, open up some of those resources so you have those handy, do so now. Otherwise, we're going to continue on to part 1. Hi everybody, welcome to part 2. I can't believe you are sticking it out with me all the way to the end. So this part of our video is going to be focused on some practical how-tos with working with this rich content editor text box in Simple Syllabus. So Simple Syllabus has a really important feature that may seem buggy if you don't understand it. Part of why the curriculum committee selected this particular program is because of the accessibility features. So it's important to make sure that all of our materials are accessible to all of our students. And so Simple Syllabus is built in a way to try to keep accessibility of those materials. And so sometimes it doesn't do what you want it to do in the way you want it to do it because it's forcing the material to be accessible. This can be a point of frustration, but with a few tips and tricks, you can learn how to get over that and make a really clean, nice looking syllabus that's accessible to everybody. Let's jump in. I'm going to start with an assumption that if you're in this part of the video, you have some existing syllabus text or tables or even maybe pictures and links that you want to have put into this version in Simple Syllabus. So let's say you have been an instructor here that's taught already. You have a Word or Google Doc based syllabus and you're making the transition to Simple Syllabus for the first time. Or perhaps you're a new instructor here, but you've been given a model syllabus from another instructor here at the college. You may have a buddy that teaches somewhere else that has a model syllabus. You yourself may have taught somewhere else, or maybe you found some kind of exemplars online. And in a Word or a Google Doc, we have great skills for copying and pasting text in from other places, playing with the formatting and making everything look visually appealing. You just have to learn a few skills for working with Simple Syllabus and you can do the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a Google Doc version of my syllabus. I'm going to put that side by side on the page here. Okay, so this is an example of what my syllabus used to look like before Simple Syllabus. And what I did the first time I created a syllabus in Simple Syllabus is I took my existing syllabus and I divided it up into all of these same headings that were here. So I kind of copied them all in here in the order in which they appeared. And then I just went through this syllabus and I copy pasted the information that was in my paper kind of version of the syllabus into those sections. And so I wanted to create a version of my syllabus that matched the order in Simple Syllabus. So that's a tip that I think will help if you are coming from a pre-existing syllabus. Once I had that in place, I really had to do my edits the very first time to the syllabus in Word or Google Doc the way I have always done, my kind of old-fashioned way. I had a really hard time kind of wrapping my head around Simple Syllabus the first time. And so I said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it on paper before I fix it in here. So I'm going to show you my updated version of what this syllabus looks like. So here is my sort of old-fashioned word processing version of my syllabus. I tried to match the order of all the information. I've gone through and I've made my updates to, my calendar dates and any other changes I wanted to make. Like I had to come up with an AI statement this semester. So I have my sort of old-fashioned way of doing this. Now you don't have to do it this way, but this is just the way that I did it, and I found it really helpful the very first time I used it. So then what I did was I then went through and started cutting things out of this word processed version that were already in my Simple Syllabus for me. So I opened my Simple Syllabus and I had all of this pre-populated stuff in here. And I said, okay, if it's already in there, and I don't have to copy and paste it out of here, I'm getting rid of it so I can kind of just see what I need to put in. Now I have a document that includes just the information that is not already typed in for me or pre-populated into my Simple Syllabus. And I have to get the information from point A to point B. This is where that feature that can seem like a bug comes in, because it seems like it should be really easy just to copy paste, but you may encounter a few problems. So I want to start with the section that is just text. So I'm going to skip over this course calendar for a moment because it's got a table in it. And I'm going to go to my credits section. And I had already a long time ago calculated and phrased out the way I phrase an online 14-week 3-credit-hour class for that federal definition of the credit hour statement. And I'm just going to copy that in. Sometimes when you copy in, the font is going to look a little bit different. The spacing is going to look a little bit different. So one of my first tips and tricks, if you want to correct any of those kinds of issues, is going to be to select the text after you copy it in, clear the formatting. Some other formatting things that you can make sure are done correctly is you're normally just going to use the normal style, but if you had headings in your document, sometimes you're getting into trouble because of the headings. I could simply go from there, or if I wanted, I could change the font, and then I can do some editing from there. I would probably take out that extra space just to clean it up a little bit. I would want to make sure that those words were bold. There are just a few places in the Simple Syllabus where we want to have these bold words. We want to be cautious about overusing bold text, in part because of some of the challenges it can have for accessibility. I would encourage you to only use bold where it's absolutely necessary. You should also avoid the use of italics, underlines, fonts in alternate colors, or highlighting. And that's because those emphasis markers that we use aren't accessible for all of our students. So you'll notice that in my old-fashioned version, I had italicized this part here. I'm going to avoid adding that italics back in here to maintain maximum accessibility. So once I have that text copied in, it's set, it's great, it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and delete it out of this source document. And I'm going to go on and do the next section and the next section. So one of the areas of my syllabus that I find is helpful to have some headings is in my course expectations and procedures. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that in and show you how to use heading and also how to use bulleted lists. So I copied it in. Like I always do, I'm going to come in and get rid of all of the existing formatting because I have found that it just creates more problems. So the first thing I do anytime I copy text in is I clear the formatting and normal, just so I have the cleanest slate to work on and I don't have to worry about some kind of hidden coding making things look odd. Now I'm going to go in and do the work of making this visually appealing to the students. One of the first things I usually have to do is get rid of the extra white space. Now it's time to work on making this look a little bit neater and making it a little bit easier for students and myself to navigate. So one of the first things I do in this section of my syllabus, because it is one of the lengthier sections of the part that I have to type, is I like to divide things up into headings. So I have a heading here for academic integrity and honesty. I'm going to go in and I'm going to change that from normal to a heading. This increases the accessibility of your document. Now you'll notice in this text box I don't have an option for heading 1 or heading 2 because those headings are already being used for things like this red font up here. So this is going to be underneath that. What's the next one? It's going to be heading 3. So I'm going to change that to heading 3. You'll notice it looks a little bit different visually when I do that, but it also will help with screen readers. Now, I know I said to be judicious with your use of underlining. This is one of the places where I do like to add a little bit of underlining. So I have a section of my syllabus about academic integrity and honesty. I have another one about attendance and participation. I have some information about campus closures. The next one is about inclusive learning. A little bit about managing time and technology, which is pretty critical for student success in all of our classes. And then my last one is how I handle late and missing assignments. I'm just going to go through and check each section, looking to see if there's anything that looks different that I want to try to recreate in Simple Syllabus. I do have some bulleted lists in here, and in this case those lists did work out really nicely. They formatted well, but if they didn't, I could take out the bullet. I could remove it. So now that section doesn't have a bullet. I could change the type of bulleted list. Maybe I wanted this to be a ABC list or a 1, 2, 3. I could also choose different types of circle, square, discs, whatever type of bulleted list I like. A quick check, and it looks like I have managed to copy over and with just a few minor edits make this look the way I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that section out of my source document. All right, that section copied really nicely as well. So now I'm going to scan back through my source document. So I have the course calendar, which has a table. Tables are tricky, so we're going to cover that next. And I have my methods of evaluation, which also has a table as well as a lot of links. So we'll do that after that one. And I just have one remaining thing that I had on mine that I want to decide. Do I want to keep that, or is the statement here good enough? So I'm actually just going to take that one out. I'm happy with the default statement. We have covered copying text. We've talked a little bit about lists. We talked about how to take out a lot of that hidden coding, clear the formatting, the recommendation to remove extra blank lines, talked about the use of bold, italics, underlining, alternate colors, highlighting to avoid, and we also talked a little bit about the different types of headings. So hopefully those little tips and tricks will save you a little bit of crazy makers if you're trying to copy text. So our next challenge is copying a table. So let's start with that calendar. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that a lot of you like to do your calendar like me. You like to use the table feature of the word processor. You put your days or your weeks in. So I'm going to start by just copying in what I have in my existing document. So I've got some text, and I've got the table. Looks like I've got a little bit of a bulleted list in here. If you're really, really fortunate and your table copies in looking like this, then congratulate yourself, move on, skip this part of the video. You don't need to be here. So this is the calendar that I had been using for a really long time in my online classes. It had all kinds of things in it that I really liked, but that were probably not accessible to students. And so the first time I used Simple Syllabus, I tried to copy this in, and let's just say it did not go well. If you have a table that probably has a lot of hidden formatting in it that is going to wreak havoc for accessibility, and you try to copy it into Simple Syllabus and it doesn't work as you think it should, it may be easier to just recreate that table here in Simple Syllabus. So for example, if I wanted to recreate this table for accessibility, I would need to take out these images because it's just not worth the effort to make these images accessible. We'll talk about images in a minute. And so I'm going to want to create a table that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. So I'm going to click Insert Table. I'm going to go 6 by 9. I can always add or delete columns and rows after I've created this, but I know what I need so I can get started. Now, if I try to copy into these, it may not work exactly the way that I want. That was frustrating. That was frustrating. I can't easily copy into this table, right? But what I can do is I could copy individual text within one of these cells, or I could just type it in myself. So if you're feeling frustrated about a table, it may be best just to build that table from scratch here in Simple Syllabus. I'm going to explain what some of these options are that have popped up here. So a couple of things that you will probably want to do to make your tables accessible. So I want to have a header row in my table. That's an important accessibility feature. So I'm going to click here to add a table header. And now I'm going to put this information into that table header. That is an important accessibility feature of tables. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this extra row. I can insert above or below or delete. And so now I have that header row. You can add a table footer. This is a little bit less common. You can just completely delete a table. Again, you can add and delete rows. You can also do the same thing with columns. You can change the style of the table a little bit. That's one of the things that I find doesn't always copy over are the borders. So you can have a table with dashed, alternating row colors, thick borders, dark borders, no borders, whatever kind of borders you want. This is where you're going to go to do that. You can merge and split cells. So if I wanted to, I could merge those two cells together. Or if I changed my mind, I could put in either a vertical split, which is what I had before, or I can even do a horizontal split. And I could have kind of a sub category in my header row. You can change the cell background, but as I stated previously, you want to be kind of cautious about using color to emphasize things because that color is not accessible to all students. So my wonderfully beautiful colorful table over here, probably don't want to try to recreate that in Simple Syllabus because I was not being accessible with that table. You can change the cell alignment. So if you want the cell to be at the top, bottom, or middle, you can select that there. You can have it left, center, justified, right, whatever you want to do. You can change a little bit of some of the features with an individual cell. I usually don't play around with that. And then finally, you probably want to add a table caption. Table captions are important for accessibility. What I could do is I could come in here and I could do a combination of copy paste or just typing directly in, and I can recreate my table if it doesn't copy and paste nice and neat. But since my table did copy pretty neatly, I'm going to go ahead and copy it in. We now have our table in. This section of my syllabus is all formatted, set up the way I like. That leaves two remaining things to talk about: posting images and links. So I have one more section of my source document here that I need to copy in. And this section of that document actually includes both links and images. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for that. I'm going to just start by copying in from my source document, and then we'll look at some of the nuances here. Okay, you'll notice that it struggled a little bit there because there was some images. I got a little bit of a delay. I'm going to do my normal quick edits, and then we'll talk about images and links. So before we deal with those links and images, I'm just going to update my tables. Looks like I have two here. And actually, this table here is a little bit redundant compared to what's already here from my institutional course guide. So I'm actually just going to save some real estate and some time, and I'm going to delete that table. So I have everything copied over, but because there are images and links here, I'm going to want to do some things to make it accessible to all students. So anytime you post an image, and this includes in your Canvas course page, you have to include what's called alt text or alternative text that would describe that image to someone who was using a screen reader or had a visual impairment. There are a couple of different ways you can handle this. You can mark the image as decorative only, meaning that that image is not intended to convey any meaning. If you do that, then the screen reader will skip it when it's reading it aloud, and it won't be disruption in the flow for the students. I have these little icon images here that are associated with the different types of assignments. I want to keep those, but from a screen reader perspective, they're not meaningful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that image. There we go. So you'll notice when I click on the image, I get a set of options pop up. So we're going to kind of walk through what these options are. And I'll show you how I set up these images, and then I'll go down and show you one that does need some text description. So I could replace the image, I could swap it out. I can change how it is aligned. So insert image caption, that could give me a caption. Since my images are so tiny, that's not going to be super helpful. I'm going to turn that one off. I could remove the image. We'll talk about links later. This is not a linked image, so I'm going to leave it as is. I could change how it displays. So I'm going to have mine inline. I could do a little bit of tweaking of the image, but for the most part, I'm not going to want to do that. I could work on changing the size. So I may say, ooh, when those transitioned over, they were actually way too tiny. Maybe I want to make them just a little bit bigger. So I could do that. And then here's where you're going to find that alternative text. So in this case, remember I said this is a totally decorative image. There's no meaning being conveyed by this image, so I don't want a screen reader to stumble when it comes to this point in the document. Now this is where I wish they had a nice little button you could click that marked it as decorative. Canvas has that. It's really nice. But here, the way I'm going to mark that as decorative is I'm just going to put in double quotation mark. I know it doesn't make any sense. Where does that come from? Why don't they have a button? I can't answer those questions. I can just tell you that this is the way that you do it. Now, hopefully a future update of Simple Syllabus, they'll have a nice little checkbox, but for now, that's the way you can mark it as decorative, and you're going to click Update. So I've gone through and I have marked all of these pictures as decorative, got them set up just the way I want those images to be set up. I have another image that I love, and that is a pie chart breakdown of the course grade. I have used a table that explained that to the students forever and ever, and it wasn't until I actually visually gave them a pie chart that they understood the weight of the different assignments. And so I created this table in a Google Sheet. It took me a few seconds to make it, and I generated this image. But this image has information in it, so I probably need to have some kind of alternative text that explains it to the student. All of the information in this infographic is found right up here ahead in this table. So for me, I would probably choose to mark this as decorative simply because I have already given them this information in this way. That's the way that I want to do it. But let's say I did not have this table here and I was only using this graphic. Well, if that was the case, then I would need to come into this alternative text and I would need to add all of the information that this image is conveying for students who are using a screen reader. All right, so that covers everything that you need to know about images and making sure that your course is accessible. Our final topic is about posting links. And you may have noticed as I was copying and pasting different parts of my syllabus into this class syllabus that I have links in my syllabus. A couple of things about posting links is that you don't want to post a link to a Canvas page. So let's say I had a Canvas page that detailed the orientation requirements. If I put that in here as a link in this Canvas page, then when I do that copy process, it's not going to copy nice and neat, and I'm going to end up referring students to a class that they're not enrolled in, and it'll create all kinds of havoc. I have a couple of different types of links in here. I want to kind of talk through what those are and why I use them. And then I want to come back in and focus on these particular links. So one of the first links we've already talked about is a required link in my class because I have a motor equivalent course. This is required by the state. It goes to the state database. That was in there for me. I don't have to do anything to fix, update, check that one. Another one that was already in there for me is, because this is again a gen ed class, is a link to the general education alignment map. I can't change that. I can't edit it in this format. If you need to make a change or edit to that, you'll contact me, General Education Program Coordinator, and I can help you with that if that needs to be updated or changed. Another place that I have a link is, you remember that lovely document I showed you? I still love that document. I find it very helpful for myself. I print a copy every semester and I use it to keep track of myself and my grading as we go. I didn't want to get rid of it. I wanted students to still be able to access it. They can use it. It's got a nice little daily, weekly checklist of their tasks. I didn't want to lose that, but I also did not want to put this giant document in the middle of this simple syllabus and it would get very bulky and confusing. I have it posted in here as a link to my Google Drive where I keep that document stored. And we will cover this later, but I do recommend you have any links that you put in open in a new tab. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that one. Now this one is in my profile, and I set up this link in my profile as well as a link to a Google form I require my students to use if they request extensions. I already went ahead and set those up in my profile, so I'm going to skip over this section for now. There are a couple of links in here that loaded from the ICG. Again, if it loads from the ICG, I can't edit it, so I'm just going to skip past those. I wanted to highlight the links I put on this page just to show you an interesting integration you can do between Simple Syllabus and Canvas that could be beneficial. What I used to have in my old version of my syllabus, I had a page or a heading in a section that talked about what the orientation requirements are, talked them through what the learning activities and discussions were, talked them through the repeated retrieval practice learning opportunities, which is my long-winded word for quizzes, the project assignments, the proctored exams. I had some extra information in the syllabus that broke those down with a little bit more detail. I also would then have that same information copied into a Canvas page, and so I kind of was duplicating my effort. And if I changed something in one place, now I had to change it in 2 places, or if I was teaching more than one section, 4 places or 6 places or 8 places, and it was just a lot. So when I started using Simple Syllabus, I started doing something slightly different. So what I have done instead of putting all this information in Simple Syllabus is I've linked to other documents. And I'll show you the kind of interesting way I've used this. So let me give you an example here. We're going to go with the quizzes. So first thing I want to do is I want to come in and I want to make these all open in a new tab. You can change the style a little bit. I usually just leave it the way it is. I'm going to come in and fix these. I'm going to open one, and then I want to show you how I load the exact same page into my Canvas pages, and it's a real time saver for me. So I'm going to open this up so you can see what it looks like. So this is kind of standalone page. It talks about the quizzes. It talks about, how many questions, how much time do they get. My students have to use Lockdown Browser. It talks about late assignments. I could drop their lowest. It's got all kinds of great information in here for the students. I want them to have access to that in the syllabus, but I also want them to have access to it in Canvas. I'm going to open so that you can see how this is going to be a time saver. This is my Canvas class, and what I did was I created a page that is simply this page from Google without copying it. So So I gotta find that icon. There it is. So I have this page called Introduction to Repeated Retrieval Practice and Learning Opportunities. This is one of the pages that I asked the students to review as part of their course orientation. And what you can see I have on the page is I have added that Google Doc in so that it's actually embedded here on the page. I didn't copy and paste this. This is embedded using a tool in Canvas that is called Google Drive LTI 1.3. If you need some help in using that tool, you can contact the help desk and they can help you use that tool. But basically what happens here is I can create this single Google Doc and I can put the exact same information linked into my syllabus and visible on my Canvas page, and I don't have to worry about all those crazy makers. I then, within my Canvas page, if I am wanting the students to have access to this, I don't have to send them all the way back to the syllabus to find it because the syllabus has so much in there. I can say, hey, if you have a question, here's the page in Canvas, and I can give them that link to their Canvas page. All right, so that's just one little fun way that I have integrated Simple Syllabus in Canvas and not used links to specific pages in Canvas to try to help me save time. The other nice thing is if you're teaching more than one section of a class, then usually those components are the same. And so it can save you from that having to update things in 1,000 different places. Here I am, I'm back in that same syllabus. We are almost done with our edits. I'm almost ready to publish and show you there's a couple of other places in here that I've used those links. There's a couple of links in these college policies. Those are set at the college level. I can't do anything with them, so I'm just gonna skip over this one. I include a link to the student handbook. So I'm going to check that one, open in a new tab. I give them a link that would take them right to my Jeffco and to the college webpage. Whew, I did it. I made them all open in a new tab. The other thing that I will strongly recommend you do if you have links in your syllabus is to check them every year before you publish the class for the student. So what I like to do is get everything set up in Simple Syllabus and then go through and click on all of those links and double check they're working before the term starts. So it looks like I have covered the 4 big topics, provided some practical examples, showed you some tips and tricks and some ways that I've utilized this. We've covered copying texts and or lists of text, copying tables, posting images, posting links. So there's just one more thing I need to do with my syllabus, and that is to submit it. Again, before I submit it, I might want to do a preview just to see how the syllabus looks from a student perspective. Go through, I may decide I don't like a font, or I may be unhappy about the spacing or something like that, and then I can come in and I can fix that if I choose to, okay? So I've done my quick review. This would be the time that I would go through and I would check to make sure all of these links were functioning. Don't feel like I need to do that for this video, but I will before class starts for sure. So I've checked it, preview mode, everything looks awesome. I'm going to close that preview tab and I'm going to press submit, that nice little it's been submitted statement, and voila! I have a fully completed, submitted, published syllabus for my students to view. If I open up that Simple Syllabus homepage, what I can see now is one of those to-do lists have been shoved over and it is now on the complete list, which is a really great feeling to have, right? Now that I have this one done, I can utilize some of those copy and reset features if there's any sections of this that I want to use as the basis for another syllabus. So for example, I have another online class. It's a different class, but many of the components of one online class are shared by another. So if I was starting from scratch, I might find it easier to begin this other class's syllabus by starting from this base. Or I may say there's a lot shared between the campus and the online sections, so I may choose to work on one of my campus sections with this one. So you got lots of flexibility with the copy feature. You can also reset individual sections and start from scratch in just certain areas. The sky's the limit. So before we conclude part 2, I just want to do a reminder that there are resources available to help you with this. We have the Simple Syllabus brief guide that we've used heavily. We have a much shorter 5-minute video. We have the Adjunct Faculty Handbook, Adjunct Syllabus Checklist. And if all else fails, you can use this Google form to request some help. Thank you so much for sticking with me through to the end. I hope everybody found something helpful. I hope that having the minute markers added to this allowed you to skip over the things you didn't need and get just what you need. I hope everybody has a great semester, and I will see you all around campus.